Hi. So, in order for us to become best friends, there's two things that you need to know about me. The first one is that I'm super frugal, or as my husband likes to say, cheap. I don't like to pay full price for anything. I make sure that there's a sale, a coupon, or a price match, or that I'm getting the absolute best deal that's out there. So I am scouring the internet. I'm checking every travel website to make sure that I'm getting the absolute best deal or the best value for my money. So that leads to point number two. I'm a fanatical researcher. Before I spend my money on just about any big purchase, I research the heck out of it. And I did this a lot before I worked for the airline, but way more since then, especially because I learned the way that, companies tend to sway things in their favor or maybe cover up things that aren't quite as favorable for them. So that really taught me to do my research and to look at real other people who have been there, not just what the hotel website says. So before I book any vacation, there's 3 websites I visit. The first one is the hotel or resort website. Now, this is mainly for all-inclusives, but I do it as well if I'm just going for a weekend trip, just to make sure that the hotel is somewhere that I'm comfortable staying. In terms of the resort website, the first thing that you want to do is look at a map of the resort. So if this is an all-inclusive and it's a big resort, you want to scope out, where do you want to stay? Where are you going to be the happiest? And in my opinion, this all depends on your personality. So, do you want somewhere quiet? Then request a room, that overlooks the garden and maybe it's at the very back of the resort. Sure, you're going to be farther away from the beach, but you're going to have that peace and quiet if you like to nap during the day or you have kids who nap during the day or you just don't want to be woken up by disco music at 11:30 p.m. If you like to be in the middle of the action, you want to be close to the pools, you want to be able to just go out your back door and jump in the pool, then request something that's a little bit closer to the pool. Maybe it has a pool view. Personally, I like the quiet. Not to say that I don't, like to enjoy any of the disco, but when I'm in my room and the blinds are closed, I want peace and quiet. I want to sleep, especially, if maybe I've got a bit of a headache from too much sun or too much. That's key, in my opinion, to being happy when you're on a trip. Another thing to think about is, do they have elevators or is it a walk-up? I've been to quite a few resorts that are, they have 3-story buildings and they're walk-ups. So if you're traveling with kids, the elderly, or maybe someone who has bad knees, bad back, bad hips, and can't walk, you're probably going to want a ground floor, and that's not something you want to discover once you get to the resort and you've already been assigned to a 3rd floor room. And you're going to have a hard time changing it, whether it be the resort's full, a language barrier, and whatnot. So those are the kind of things that I always like to ensure that I've got completely mapped out before I leave. The next thing is to read reviews. And there's 2 websites that I really recommend and that I prefer for reading reviews. Now, the first one, I'm sure you've heard of it, it's TripAdvisor. There's a couple reasons that I suggest reading the reviews. One is not only to find out if the resort or the hotels we're staying at, but you can find a lot of great tips from people who've been there before. They're going to tell you the best place to eat. They're going to tell you, if there's a lot of mosquitoes and you can bring bug spray. Personally, I never would have thought to bring bug spray to, Mexico, but I've stayed at places where they say, hey, there's a lot of swamp grounds, bring some mosquito spray late at night. And maybe little things that you'd never think to pack, but once you get there you need, and they're selling them in the gift shop for $50 more than you pay at home. My husband, my daughter, and I recently went to Punta Cana. We were just there a few weeks ago, and before we left, I scoured TripAdvisor. I read every single review. And I learned that the a la cartes book up really quickly and that people were complaining that they couldn't get a reservation. So what I did is I, again, went through all the reviews, picked out the ones that I thought would be best for our family, especially since we have a 2-year-old. We needed somewhere where the ambiance wasn't too romantic and people would be annoyed by a noisy 2-year-old. And then I just emailed the resort and I said, hey, we're coming from the 15th to 22nd. Can I get these 2 resorts any night between this time? And sure enough, I got both reservations, not a problem. I also like to look at the pictures just to get a good feel for the resort from someone who's actually been there. Another website that I like is Oyster. It's not as robust as TripAdvisor in terms of all the reviews, but the nice thing is that they write their own reviews. So they tend to be a little more unbiased and a little less petty, as some TripAdvisor reviews tend to be. I actually read a 1-star review on the resort where I got married, which was beautiful, because the ketchup tasted funny. in another country, yes, the ketchup might taste different. Is it worthy of a 1-star? Probably not. So that's what I like about the oyster. They're less biased, they're written by travel professionals, and they actually give you a pros and cons list so you can look at it and get a really good feel for the place. Just as an example, I looked at the reviews, the oyster, for the place where I got married, and a couple of the pros, they have a large casino, they have free Wi-Fi in the lobby, which is great for me because I like to check in at home, I like to check in on my cats. Not that they use the internet, but their babysitter does. We won't even talk about that. And it's right on the beach. But, you know, a couple cons that I laid out is that the resort is huge, so you have to take shuttles to get around. So if, you know, you are with someone who's a little bit older and they can't handle that, probably not a great place to go. And that you don't have Wi-Fi in the room itself. So if that's something that you really need, maybe not the best resort for you. They also feature a lot of pictures of the resorts that aren't, you know, the phony ones that are put out by the resort itself, you know, where there's only one beautiful woman in a bikini standing at the bar and the rest of the place is empty, or the buffet is always fully stocked with immaculate looking food. They're real pictures taken by people who know what they're looking for. So those are my, you know, go-to research sites before I book a vacation. I highly recommend you check them out and just get a feel for them. Of course, as always, take any review with a grain of salt. You know, maybe these people are a little more picky than you are, or maybe you're more picky than them. So just read them with a grain of salt, get a really good feel for if this place is going to be worth your hard-earned dollars, and then book your vacation and have fun. I'll put the links to these sites in the blog post right below this video. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Bye. Cheers.